Hello, I'm Max Rendell and this is the Sleeper Podcast. So Tahnee has been one of the people that I've been wanting to get on the podcast since we started. You know, femininity in the sport has been a rare thing historically, and that's why Tahnee has became kind of culturally significant. She's, you know, introduced the colour pink and popularised the colour pink into the sport, and I just find it really interesting. So we talked about her love of design, her love of, you know, art in general, what she thinks about being like a role model or an influencer, how her season's going so far, her boyfriend Cade Edwards, also the controversial introduction of OnlyFans as a sponsor for certain athletes in the sport. We gave our opinions on that. So yeah, it was a really good conversation. I really enjoyed it and I hope to get her on in the future. And thanks, Tahnee, for coming on. Also, if you do want to support the podcast as we continue to grow, we want to do more and more of these more frequently with a higher quality, with more time involved. So if you do want to support it, there are a few ways to do that. There's a Patreon. You can just directly support us by subscribing to the Patreon, or you can cop some merch. We've got a collaboration out with Darko at the moment, a Sleeper Darko collaboration. So really happy with it. The quality of the stuff is top notch. So if you do want to support us, you can cop some fresh swag. So yeah, I hope you enjoy this one. Thanks for supporting, thanks for listening, and yeah, enjoy. Yeah, I was going to ask like how you're finding the process now, because obviously it was quite a hectic time before and you're just kind of getting back to it, health-wise and preparation-wise. How prepared and ready do you feel at the moment for the process of downhill racing, and how's it been going?
I feel like you never really feel that prepared anyway, but It was a hard call for me to decide that I was going to race the full season because I wasn't ready. And obviously it's so different to any previous years I've had. I've done 12 years of downhill racing now, and every single season I've lined up and made sure that I'm 100% ready. Obviously, like I said, you have your doubts, but physically you've prepared for a season of downhill racing. So it was really odd for me to commit to the season but not particularly feel physically ready. But mentally, I was stoked to get going. So I just thought I'd just learn as it goes along again.
So how were you not physically ready? Like, can you just give a quick update as to why that might be?
Yeah, well, last year I got a concussion in April, I think it was. And I thought it would be over in a few weeks, and it just had a massive snowball effect on my health. And I got post-concussion syndrome, and it just like took ages for me to get better. So I did 9 months without any sport really. I tried to dip in here and there, but it just got worse. So in the end, I just gave up, and because I started to feel better when I didn't do anything. So I was like, I'm just going to have to abandon the idea of trying to get out on a bike or even running or any type of sport and focus on myself. So that's hard to stay sane and not exercise. But I didn't start exercising until about November. So, and it was just such small amounts, and it had to be really I had to go off feel, and like symptoms were still around at that time. So I was just being really cautious, and it didn't really pick up. I thought I'd be able to pick up training, which I did a little bit, but it was just so slow and it didn't really gain any momentum.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's this thing, well, everyone's talking about, you know, head injuries, and I don't want to linger too much on it because you've spoken about it a lot already, but there's also this sort of opposite perspective at the moment, and I think it's just around action sports and extreme sports sort of thing, where people almost think it's like a trend at the moment.
Yeah.
What would you say to that?
But it's annoying, obviously, because it already didn't have the recognition that not that it deserves, but I mean, like, people go through some pretty dark times if it's anything like I went through. And I have a lot of sympathy and understanding for people that now go through similar injuries. But yeah, I've heard it like, oh, it's trendy now to have a concussion, and I just can't even fathom how someone would think like that. I think it's because they've probably experienced one and they were like your typical, like, you get over it in a few weeks, because that is
the typical case.
Yeah, you have like 3 weeks rest and then you slowly get back into sport and you're fine. But a lot of people also don't do that, and it's just every brain injury is different, I think. So there's obviously loads of different tiers of it, I guess. And I don't know. I'm not sure if like COVID had something to do with it, and maybe there's research out there that our brains aren't as healthy as they were before, and that's why people are now crashing out and seeing a longer recovery time for their concussions. But yeah, it's sad to hear that people say that.
Yeah, I think it's just that old school sort of mentality of, crack on, you're just being a wuss sort of thing.
Yeah.
Was there any points where you felt like that? Like, am I just being weak?
Well, because it's like, I kept saying to the people I was seeing, I was like, it's just driving me insane. I feel like it's all in my head. And like, the people I was working with would laugh and be like, but it is your head. Like, like, it's funny you said it because it is your head.
Yeah. And
the thing is I'm like, my dad's super old school. My parents are so old school. And I've always cracked on with my injuries before. Like, I share a lot about them, but behind the scenes, I work really hard to get back and I don't hang around. So it was really hard for me to accept that I had to slow down, because at one point, it wasn't physically possible to do anything. Like, I could not get up and run. Like, it wasn't possible. I was in bed all day, not because I had to or wanted to, but because it just wasn't possible to get out of bed. Like, it blows my mind that people are like, oh, why didn't you just try? I was like I just cannot explain, because it was just so unbearable, and it just wasn't possible to get up and do stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're definitely someone that's why I wanted to talk to you. You're very vocal. And I really appreciate how much you share about your internal dialogue, whereas some athletes don't want to give that away for some reason. But yeah, I really appreciate how like open you are online. Was it ever difficult to maintain that sort of level of openness during a time like that?
Yeah, definitely. There were times, obviously in the beginning, I couldn't even look at my phone. So I think I went offline for 4 weeks total. I just didn't even pick my phone up. So complete radio silence. So obviously my manager and my parents had to get involved with talking to people, telling them that I was okay. I was like, okay, but I just couldn't really look at my phone or anything. But after that, I felt like, not that I had to, but I'd always been so vocal to my Instagram following, and it's just a way of therapy for me in a way. I feel like I get it off my chest. So it's like a diary. And I understand that lots of people aren't like that, and that's fine. Mm-hmm. But I feel like people are along with me on my journey, and that's why they follow me. So it was never really a pressure, but when I felt like something big happened, I shared it. Or like, I felt like people might just think I've just literally dropped off the face of the earth. So I give a little update. But I only posted about like 3 times last year, because it wasn't a priority of mine. And the good thing is a lot of people reached out to me and said that, I didn't have to worry about that at all, that they just wished that I was better and stuff. So yeah, I have a really good fan base. Everyone's so nice to me. So I'm very lucky.
Yeah, it comes very naturally to you to like, it's almost like a dirty word to say like an influencer, but you are. You're influencing a lot of people, and it's basically I think there's a lack of feminine role models in the sport, and I think you're playing that role really, really well, and it just means that girlier girls out there have somebody to look up to. Do you ever think about that and think about like where your sort of brand is sat in the sport in that regard?
Thank you, first of all. That was so nice. But it was never really like a plan of mine. Like, I didn't set out to be like, oh, I want to be this influential person, or this is my goal. Like, I literally just share what's on my chest. Like, I just get it off and people relate to it. And sometimes I think that's mad. Like, people will come up to me and be like, thank you for posting this, or like, I really relate. And in the moment, I'm like, I like to engage with my fans, but then I'll go back like into the lorry or something, and I'll be like, that's so odd. Like, it's not odd, but I'm just like, I feel weird that they're influenced by someone like me. Cause
yeah.
I just feel like I'm pretty normal. I just put stuff online, and I do feel like that's influenced definitely the character that I have in downhill. Obviously, I'm, like you say, I'm super open. I am myself, but I have built this character. And I love the character because it is me. But it just naturally happened, I think, because when I was younger, I wasn't a girly girl. My dad used to dress me in my older brother's clothes all the time, and I hated pink. So
really,
I think it just naturally, yeah.
That's so funny. Now,
I know
the brand is pink.
All I've got, yeah. But I think it's because I hated it so much, and kind of I thought to be that sporty person, you had to be tomboy, and I felt like I still am, but I just found it ridiculous eventually that, you know, colours were sexualised or in any manner. And I know that's kind of, I don't know, I'm not contradicting myself, because a lot of people will be like, oh, it's so feminine, there's a lot of pink and all that. But I just want to like break down all the stigmas and just wear whatever you want and do whatever you want. So
yeah. No, you're definitely achieving that. And even through like your other creative pursuits. Can you talk a little bit about your sort of design passion? Because I think that you're really good at that, low key. And it's like, I don't know, is that something that you've considered pursuing even like after racing? I know that's like still got loads of years left, but like a professional designer, because the stuff and the garments that you've been making, and even the stuff that's not been released to the public that I've seen that you've been wearing, is just like really cool.
Ah, thank you. Yeah, it just kind of, again, it was something that naturally happened. And I feel like I've been with Fox for so long. So, you know, they're like family to me. And I think, I don't even know how it came up. I think I knocked on their door for a very long time being like, please, can we release something? And it took years and years, because the more I would wear, the more people would start following me and following that journey, because it was so different. We had all these custom kits. I think it kind of started around 2017. And fortunately, that's when I started winning as well. So there was like this big hype of me having these very bright colors and like baby pink kits. And it was so different to anything else you saw than like you get standard yellow, orange, blue, red. And I loved being different, and I loved expressing myself through those kits. And yeah, I just felt bad that only I could have them, because I've noticed that so many people wanted something similar, but you just couldn't get your hands on it. And like we were saying earlier, I feel like colours have been so sexualised that almost like people steered away from pink, especially mountain bike brands, because they were like, oh no, people think that's too girly, or that's like a girl colour, so let's just stay away from that and keep all these bland colours that are neutral and don't offend anyone.
Yeah.
So I think there's obviously, the more people that start riding, there's way more women that ride now. So I think it spoke to a lot of people, and eventually I think Fox kind of saw how much attention the kits were getting, and they finally said yes to release a collab kit with me. And I think it was 2020 was the first one, or 2019. Yeah. Yeah,
it's weird how the sport in general seems to want to really stay away from like almost femininity in general. It really is quite adverse to, I don't know, it feels like it's been overly masculine for quite a long time. I don't know where I was going with that, but it's just an observation. Like,
yeah.
Why do you think that is? And, you know, have you had any sort of friction against what you've been doing, essentially?
Well, luckily, no, I haven't had any. Like, no one's turned around and been like, oh, that's too girly, or yeah, you can't do that. I feel like it's very positive feedback. Again, I feel like if people don't like it, they just probably don't get involved. Like, I understand it's not for everyone, and that's fine. But there is a market for people that do want to stay girly, even when they're riding. Just because they're going to go and get dirty doesn't mean they don't want a nice, pretty kit. So I think it's the same for everything, really. Like, if you want a pink car, you're going to wrap it in pink. Like, it makes sense to me. So I do feel like, though, like we were saying, there is, I don't know why they steer away from it. Maybe because it is bold or whatever, but I never saw it as being bold. I just saw it as a color that I liked, and I wanted to implement it more into my daily life and my riding. So you see all the sparkles and the gems, and like, I love that stuff.
Yeah, it's funny how simple it seems on the surface, but actually how impactful it is across the sport. It's like, wear pink, and then the whole culture is like, oh wait, we can wear pink now.
Yeah.
You know, it's like so simple, and yet so powerful.
It was almost like an unwritten rule, or like I don't know, like against the law to wear pink in mountain biking, you know. And it was it was weird because I think I remember Sam Hill wearing like a fluorescent pink.
Yeah, he had the pink bike and the pink tops for breast cancer, I think it was.
And that was just like the first time that people saw it, and like people called it like pajamas and stuff. And but I remember being obsessed with it. So maybe that was the first planted seed, you know, just like, that was a core memory of mine for sure.
You had cut media with the oranges back in the day as well.
Yeah, that was all pink.
And you do see a lot of people now like, oh, what's the team in the UK? And they're like full pink with the Santa Cruzes and stuff like that as well.
Yeah.
Well, I can't remember the team's name, but yeah, you do see it leaking out.
Yeah.
I love pink. Like, I did a photo shoot back in the day and a video shoot as well, and we called it Max Attack, and I had this pink shirt on.
Sick.
I don't know if you've seen the photo, but like it's like we got pink smoke bombs and I like jumped through the pink smoke and I had the
I need to
pink
do
shirt
some
on.
of that.
I'll send you the photo afterwards. On a bit more of a spicy topic, I feel like we're the people to do this.
I was a bit nervous coming on.
I think it's time.
Oh no.
So what is your opinion or take on some recent athletes being sponsored by OnlyFans?
Oh, my heart rate's gone down again now.
It's like, it's okay.
It's hard because I understand that there's not much money for athletes in the sport. I know that firsthand. I've had to work really, really hard to make good money out of it. And like I say, it's not just down to racing. I built this character, I built a following. So it's required a lot of work. And there were times where, you know, we struggled a lot, and my dad still struggles a lot. He loves to hide things with, you know, a big fancy lorry and everything. We look nice with a team that tries to look good, and it hides a lot of struggle behind closed doors. Especially being like still a family-led team. Mm-hmm. So I can understand that you need to reach out to outside sponsors, but it has a reputation, and I just feel like there's so many kids, you know, and I feel like it doesn't matter how much you say like, oh yeah, but it's not that. It is that.
Yeah,
like, I don't have to say what it is. And I just feel like in the beginning I was like, I couldn't make an opinion on it. I didn't know if it was good or bad. And then I thought about it and I was like, if I picked up said sponsor, I don't think I would have got half the positive feedback that they got, saying like it was cool for the sport, it's so good, yeah, like go on lad. Like I just feel like as a girl we would have instantly been linked to that other side of OnlyFans, which is not the good side, seen as, you know, as a promotion thing on Instagram. So I just I think I felt a bit like I don't know how to, I just felt a bit not disappointed, because they, in a way, like I said, I'm happy that they're managing to make money from you know, riding bikes, but I felt a bit disheartened, I think, and that I felt like we still had a long way to go in how women were seen in the sport. Not that that was ever mentioned, you know, from them, but that was my own thought. So it's just like, damn, I know for a fact that but it's such a male-dominated sport, you know, so I just knew for a fact that if, you know, I did an April's Fools and been like, I'm sponsored by OnlyFans, like, I don't know what the feedback would be like.
Totally different.
But then that's me just imagining, that's just, I don't know, because I wouldn't say yes.
Yeah. I know, I was really surprised at the positive feedback, because I guess I kind of seen the sport of mountain biking is very, very wholesome.
Yeah.
And it's very family oriented. It's very family friendly sport. And there is so many young kids. And I think about, you know, how I might have been influenced if I was a fan of said athlete, and I might have signed up, and then you see everything else that's on that platform. And I kind of think that we're in a little bit of I'm a bit of an exception to the rule, I suppose. Other people are a bit more chill with it, and like, oh, it's not no biggie, you know, it's just porn or whatever. It's like, it doesn't matter. But to me, is like we're in a bit of a masculinity crisis currently, and I feel like it emasculates men to like engage in that sort of behavior.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's everybody's job to try and resist those like temptations, and I just think the whole platform is just sad. Just the whole format of it is sad. Like, as you say, it's like get your money or whatever. I'm not mad at people trying to make a living. That may be people like girls on OnlyFans, and it's also like people getting sponsored by it. It's like, go get your money. But I was a bit the same as you. I was just like, I couldn't figure it out why I was so like just disappointed by the whole thing. And I just don't agree with it fundamentally.
Yeah.
There's so much of that content available for free online anyway. So what harm is it doing? But I just think, like with motocross, there's already been athletes with OnlyFans as a sponsorship. And that, to me, in my head, it makes more sense because the sport is a lot less wholesome. Like it just feels less sort of, it's been like that for a while, you know, like whether it's like the way that the videos are made and the kind of the sexualization of it and the monster girls and stuff like that. It's a lot more prevalent in motocross than it is in
which also needs work, but
it's a little bit antiquated, but that monster are going to hate that. But this sport, I just felt like it was kind of untouched in that regard, and I was just like, I don't want any kids to think that they should consume that content. We're in such an overly stimulated world, and you can easily get hooked up in that. And I know from personal experience, you can get really addicted to those things online, and people don't take it seriously enough because it's not like a drug or something like that, but it is a drug. It's like one of the most powerful drugs that you can have, and it's so readily available, and the novelty involved in it, the constant seeking of new novelty just completely ruins your ability to talk to people in real life and engage in like meaningful relationships and actually connect with people on a level that isn't just like material pleasure based. Yeah. And I think it's happening all around the world to men, and it's making the men weaker, which doesn't help the men and it doesn't help the women. So
no, it's definitely not a platform that is worthy of being promoted, I think, within the mountain bike industry. But like I said, I was taken aback by all the positive comments, I think, but also it's just a hard one because maybe they would be able to change the way OnlyFans is seen as a whole, but I don't think two people in mountain biking have been sponsored by that, and they're not going to stop all the other stuff on there anyway. So it's not like, you know, maybe I'm a bit optimistic in thinking, well, maybe people will see it differently now, or but I just know that I would never be able to link myself with something like that because of, well, I guess it would mainly be because of your reputation and stuff. So
totally, like if Playboy magazine decided that they're actually a car magazine, people would be so confused, and they would take, you know, but they were still had the same content up there. It's not like you can just rebrand it like that overnight. And there's so many other platforms where you can do the exact same thing in terms of supporting a creator, like Patreon or this sort of thing. So the argument that it's not is just, I think, completely invalid. Whether he should be banned from racing and sport, I'm not so sure. I think it's quite severe, but
I guess you said I wouldn't want to promote that either. Oh, it is a tough one because I did just see it and then like kind of forget about it and didn't have time to form a proper opinion on it. And like I said, my first original one was more like maybe a selfish opinion, being like, well, if I was to do that, then, you know, there would be an uproar.
Did you say that publicly? I can't remember.
Yeah, I did comment on the post because I've known Lewis for a long time.
Yeah.
He used to come and stay at our chalet when we lived near Morzine. But yeah, it wasn't anything towards him. I'm not judging his choices or anything, but it was just more of if I was in this situation, like what would it be?
Yeah, it'd be so different. No, I think we've got that. I've not had enough time to really get like an opinion on it either. I was going to talk to you about Cade Edwards.
Oh yeah, the Cade Edwards.
The Cade Edwards. Can you just describe, because there was a recent thing with Red Bull, the free racer thing.
Mm-hmm.
It was really cool. They did such a good job on that. I thought it was sick. And it just sort of described the duality between his desire to race and his like almost nature to like be a free rider and everything like that. Can you just describe the complexity involved in that sort of duality and how that is? Because I've gotten to know him a little bit better now, hanging out with the Trek team, making their content, and it's hard to watch sometimes, like the battle that he has in his head with wanting to win, but then you don't win all the time, and then it's like it's not fun when you're not winning.
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, Cade loves riding his bike. I'm sure everyone has seen that from following him. So you would never not see him on a bike. He rides his bike every single day. And when he was younger, he won a lot. So I think he knows what it's like to win. He knows that feeling. He obviously was junior world champ. But the stuff outside of racing, I think, holds a very special place in his heart. He grew up in a skate park. It's a way of expressing himself a lot more, and he can just be a lot more creative, and he can put, content out on his Instagram and hype people up, inspire people. I don't feel like he feels like he has the same effect in racing, which is crazy to me because he brings so much hype to the race scene. And I do think the more time goes along, and he didn't get through to finals the past two races. He just feels like maybe he doesn't dedicate enough time to being a racer. He sees like Amaury and Loic and Loris that all train towards this one thing. And he's not willing to do that. He's not willing to put down everything else and set that aside to become a top 5 racer. But I don't believe he has to do any of that. I feel like there's a big lack of belief on his side that he's capable of going out and getting podiums. That's half the battle done, is when you believe in yourself. He's just overworked, I think, as well. Everyone wants a bit of Cade at the minute. I cannot fathom how tired he is all the time, but just keeps riding his bike because it's his escape. He's always asked to do shoots. He never says no. Like, he's always the one that the sponsors want to see in pictures, and arguably probably one of the least paid professional riders on the circuit. So obviously I'm biased, and I'm going to be like, I'm going to have his back always, but I feel like he's the most exciting mountain bike rider that there is as of yet in any discipline. People love to watch him ride. Like, obviously I love to watch him ride, but I know people love to watch him ride. I see it all the time when we go to different spots, and he's completely outside of his normal environment. He'll go to trails on a BMX and people are just in awe of him riding. And the great thing about Cade is he's so humble about it. It's weird because his riding says differently. His riding promotes this really confident, really, what's the word? Like, just, a macho man. Yeah. But he's not at all. Like, anyone that meets him, he's so humble. He just rides his bike for fun. He doesn't do it for clout or for other people, or he does it for himself. So I think when everyone's trying to get a little piece of Cade, it does stress him out a bit. But at the end of the day, he has to make a living out of it, and it is his job. So I don't even know where we were going with that, but
no, that was great. That was a great insight.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting that you say that, because I guess people from the outside will look at Cade and they'll think, oh, he must be one of the best paid athletes. Yeah. Why do you think he's ended up in this position?
I think, obviously, on a race team, you get paid to race your bike. That's what you get paid to do. His results, when you compare them to someone like Loris and Reese, they're not anywhere near as good. So even though he's very much capable of it, he hasn't had that consistency and that momentum that those boys have had. And he is under the umbrella of a race team. So all that extra is extra. It's bonus for everyone involved. But he's not going to stop doing it. And I think brands know that, which is sad to me, I think. But he will always give 110% anytime he picks up a bike, and outside of doing anything bike related. I think that's why there's just so much built up stress. And when he crashes, you see on some of the videos, he like chucks his bike and gets so angry with himself because he wants to be able to give back to his sponsors and show them that, you know, he puts in a lot of work.
This podcast is sponsored by HIT. HIT is a smart device that attaches to an athlete's helmet to measure G-force during impacts and rotational force, which can give you an early indication of a potential concussion instead of relying on often unreliable gut feeling. Having real data helps you make informed decisions that are best for your long-term health and, as a result, your performance. Crashing is not a fun topic, but pushing that limit is why we love this sport. HIT is part of the evolution of action sports. We have to move away from arbitrary tests that don't work and put athletes at risk into a world where accurate data is embraced and used to protect our priceless brains. For more information, visit hitrecognition.co.uk. Now, back to the podcast. Yeah, it's like the whole race truck and all the like a chef, the physio, managers, mechanics, everyone's there to win the race. And, you know, when he doesn't do that, he gets real upset. But after the last round, I just said, look, dude, there's so many people in the pits that don't have anything else to offer other than speed. And you've got this entire personality out with this. So like this is just a very short, narrow bandwidth of what you're actually capable of. And I think that helped because he's in that environment. You can't help but notice that, you know, people are disappointed on the team that you've not done so well, and feel that sort of energy of like, oh, I've let everybody down. Yeah. But it's not really, if you peel it back, it's, and like rid yourself of other people's opinions. Like he's got so much else to offer. Yeah. And I wish that there was a way for all of that to be recognized more officially. Yeah. Because ultimately that's why everybody wants a piece of Cade. It's like in the Free Racer video, that the run at Fort William, it's like,
yeah, I was going to mention that. I was like, I can't not mention his run at Fort William, because the thing is like, it's so annoying because he was on pace for like a top 10 result or top 15. I can't remember what, but you know, he goes down and he says like the first thing he thinks of is he's like so annoyed, so disappointed. And then the only thing that makes him not disappointed is to just ride his bike the only way he knows how. And that is to do a no foot can on one of the jumps and a tuck no hander on the last thing. And I was like, you have no idea how many people you inspired that day, or like it was shared everywhere. He got way more shares and probably influenced way more people than the winner did. I can't even remember who won, and I feel so bad. But because what I remember from Fort William that year is Cade's slopestyle run on the on the last tabletops. Yeah. But I do think he is in an environment that allows him to thrive. I will give them credit where credit's due. That he, you know, I think he is surrounded by people that really do push him in the right direction. I just feel like you can't tame a bull, you know. He wants to go out and he wants to do all this, and I feel like he just needs a bit more freedom in some aspects of his riding.
Yeah, and as you say, it's like because of his innate passion for it and his innate sort of drive to do it, it's very easy for not to be, I don't want to say being taken advantage of, but like it's easy for that to be taken as a given. Yeah, you know, he's always going to just go out and jib his bike and entertain the masses. It's like in Lenzerheide, one of his videos has got like nearly 1 million views for, you know, a pit bike or like something that, you know, probably needed promoting, and there you go, you've just got your promotion easily without even asking. Yeah. And I think that's where Cade kind of shoots himself in the foot a lot, but he won't give that side up ever. He will ride his bike to the day he dies, like 100%. Yeah, it's that like duality of he's an artist and he's trying to like monetize his art, but it just kind of comes out of him, you know? Yeah, so he can't help it, honestly. And as like a couple like growing older and stuff, I do say to him like, we're not gonna like be able to get paid for this forever, so
we do have to try and make as much money as possible. I used to feel super guilty, but then I'm like, I don't know, especially with my injuries recently, I was like, I don't know how long like I want to carry on for, or how long it will carry on for, or if my sponsors might be like, you're not relevant anymore. Like, it's a scary situation, even though I have a lot of loyalty with my sponsors. So I'm in a very fortunate position. I'm aware of that. And I feel like Cade is is definitely at a place where he is also in a fortunate position. But it does make you think sometimes, like, it would be nice because I didn't get any, like, I didn't study for that long. I wasn't that bright at school. So yeah, I don't know what I want to do after. And it would be nice to be able to have a bit of time to rethink everything and, you know, sit down for a bit and be like, okay, what are we going to do? And I think that scares a lot of athletes, not knowing once it's done if you have time you're just going to have to jump into another thing, or like, I know that's a privilege, definitely, but I do say to him, like, because he always says to me, he's like, I don't do it for the money, I know that, but it's all right for now because, you know, we're not in that much need, but when we are in need, that's when it will start to get scary. So I'm like a forward thinker, and I think Cade's very good at staying present.
Yeah, and that's probably the balance that helps you both. What was the process like of actually understanding your value and knowing your value? Because that must be a very difficult thing because it's completely ambiguous and it's kind of plucked out of thin air. You know what I mean? It's
it is.
You definitely, there's an element of you are worth what you say you are and can stand by. Yeah. It's like with art, like if I make a painting and I say it's worth £50,000, then it's worth £50,000, and that's just it. Somebody might not buy it. It's what I say that it's worth. And I feel like it's kind of like that it's a little bit less ambiguous when you're just winning the races all the time. But when you've got a brand that you're selling, like with yourself and Cade, I'd say you're probably both like 50-50 racer, but then you've got your entire brand and identity, and that's what you're selling. How do you know your value? How's that process been?
That is that was always hard for me, especially I think being a woman in the sport and always feeling like you're not worthy of, making money, I guess, like within the sport for a long time. When I was younger, like my dad had to beg, borrow and steal when I was younger. Like that's why we created the team, because he thought that I would never get the support. So he stood by my side the entire time to make sure that the dream stayed alive. So I owe a lot to my parents for sure. And I think as time went by, because I don't think I was never really that good growing up. Like I got beaten by loads all the time, even at like little nationals, but I had drive. But also coming from my dad being my manager, it was so hard for him to present to sponsors being like, oh, my daughter is going to be the next big thing. Like he probably didn't even believe that, but because I was so crap at the time. But you know, he used to like have to say all these great things about me, then sign off as Tahnee's dad. And he felt like a lot of sponsors would be like, well, obviously.
Yeah, obviously you're going to say that. Yeah.
So I think in a way he always held back a bit on not my value, but he felt, like I said, it was just weird, I think, for him. He didn't want to push people too much. And but I think that's why we've got really good relationships with a lot of our sponsors, because it did start out as just a partnership and nothing more. And as time has gone, and then slowly, actually, a few years ago, maybe just before COVID, I said to Dad, like, I want to do things myself now, because I feel like I can sell myself better than you can. Like, I feel like it would be quite a strong statement for me to go out to all my sponsors and be like, I'm representing myself. I think this is my value. And obviously being that influencer, as you called it, I hate that word so much, but having the following that I do, it got easier definitely to be like, well, and also the fact that people were making money from that. So not only did they have a racer, but they also had the person that had more followers than anyone in that industry at the time, or that kind of movement. So yeah, I kind of put my foot down and it was scary for sure, and I didn't half the time didn't believe what I was saying, but because I have a lot of self-doubt. But I'm happy I did, and I hope that other people learn to stick up for themselves as well.
Yeah, it's a pride thing as well. Like you're forced as an athlete to constantly justify yourself to others.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of struggling athletes, which is there's tons of, like 50% of the pets are on the breadline. They're really struggling to get by. Yeah, probably more. Yeah. So most people there are really struggling, and some of those people, it's kind of their own doing in a way, because they're not able to shout about themselves at all. It's like a pride thing. It's a humility thing. They're good people. They're humble, and they don't want to say, "I'm the shit, by the way, I'm the next thing."
Yeah.
But you're forced to do that. And the media thing as well. It's like a lot of mountain bikers are really strange people. They're not like the nature of the sport is that you want to escape into the mountains. You want to be on your own in your own head, just like free of all responsibilities, just coasting down a hill. That's what the nature of the sport is. It attracts introverted people that are not so outspoken, and they don't know how to sell themselves properly. And that just, it's a spiral of that just leads to people just getting taken the piss out of, basically. Just
well, Cade is one of those people.
Yeah,
he just cannot sell himself because he doesn't want to either. So I can completely understand why people don't. But I feel like the fact that my dad never thought we were gonna make it pro, or I think that pushed us a lot to try and make it happen. And well, here I am making a living off of mountain biking, which is crazy to me. Like, in a way, that's what we always push for, but weren't really sure whether it was going to happen.
Yeah, follow my dream.
Yeah.
There you go. What would you say to people that don't really sort of understand that marketing element of the sport, in terms of like maybe people that just would never vlog, would never consider like doing anything like that, and are just pursuing the results? What would you say to people about that?
What, so they're only pursuing results?
Yeah. I know so many of these people, and I want to help them, because I'm only involved in the filmmaking aspect of it.
Yeah, it's harsh, because the only way that that's going to work is if you start winning, I think. And then if you don't, you need a character. Like, you need to have something that people want to see. You have to stand out, I guess. I feel like that's probably why I started standing out, because I don't know. I feel like that sounds weird to people, because I have won a lot of World Cups and I did have a good stint. But before that, like, it was such a slow and natural progression. And I think when I was younger, I had like the baby blue bike. That's what people knew me for, like a young girl ripping down Plenty. And that was made up for me by my dad and Nigel Page, who was a rider at the time, Vanessa Quinn, who was an ex-pro downhill racer. Like, it wasn't just a bike that my dad went and bought. We were very lucky and fortunate to know people. We always say it's who you know, not what you know. And I feel like from then it kind of just kept going. We made some videos here and there. I did a cut media video as well, actually, in Champery. And I sent this jump that was huge and crashed my brains out. And people loved it. And we made sure that it came out before Champery World Cup was coming on, so people would want to watch the video. And then all the World Cup riders knew who I was, even though I was like 13 years old. I think I was a bit older than that, actually. But, you know, I think you can be smart with marketing yourself, but if you're going solely for results, you're going to have to dedicate everything to it, because you're going to want to be winning all the time. I think it's so savage, but sport doesn't hang around for anyone, and that's just the way it goes in the industry, I think. Unless you're winning everything, then you have to market yourself. You have to learn how to market yourself and create a character that people want to see.
I think people find that really difficult, and as we said, it came very somewhat naturally to you, just because you're able to express yourself. And it's really simple in that regard. Like, it sounds like it's been quite, you know, there wasn't like a right, what's the strategy, you know, sort of thing. You just were yourself.
Yeah.
So that's the main piece of advice I would give to people that are struggling athletes that maybe think, oh, maybe I should get more into the content, is just literally just be yourself.
Yeah.
Everyone's got something to offer.
Yeah.
In terms of their unique character, and there'll be tons of other people out there that...
But there's always an audience. Yeah. That's the thing as well. We're in a consumer's world. So like, people always want to see stuff. The social media is crazy. YouTube is crazy. And brands want views. So, if you're not getting the results, then I feel like a lot of people have that dialed anyway. You know, they're aware that there's a massive opportunity to be had in that side of things, which is great. But I still try and chase the results. I don't try and feed into my character at all. Like, I am a competitor, born and bred. I'm so competitive. I hate losing. But it's nice to have something to fall back on, for sure. Mm-hmm. It's just, I think in a way I have a lot less pressure. I know that people are going to be excited to see the new kits coming out at the World Cup. So are all my brands. So that's like one box ticked, you know, for the weekend. And, but I'd be lying if I said that the goal wasn't to try and win at the World Cups. Like, I feel like every race is going to have that in them, but maybe a plan B is quite smart. Yeah.
Or at least just an openness to express yourself a little bit. Like, you just you have to talk, you know, and you have to express how you're feeling for people to relate to it.
But then, like, obviously it's a completely different case, and this was before we had Instagram and stuff, but Sam Hill's not much of a talker, you know, but his riding did all the talking for him. He didn't need to talk. Like, everyone wanted Sam Hill. And to me, he is like one of the biggest legends in the sport. And I don't think I had ever heard him speak before, really, until I got older and actually got to know who he was and stuff. But
as you say, when you're winning, it's almost, it's irrelevant because you're just winning. And that sort of mystery character is a brand in and of itself. Someone that like leans into that really, really well is like Semenuk. You know, because you really,
so mysterious.
It's like, who is he? What is he up to? Like, you hardly see a behind the scenes of how they're making these video parts, and then the video parts come out, and you're like, whoa, that was insane. You know, they've just done like 3 months and compressed it into 3 minutes.
Yeah,
and that's his brand, that compression.
Exactly.
Whereas, you know, other people, like on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, is like Win Masters. You know, he's uploading 20, 30-minute videos every single day, talking to all the athletes, super vocal. And that's got like a huge place in it. And like the economies of scale work better for that. Yeah. Normally, like, this climate is definitely one that rewards quantity.
Yeah.
And the thing that I struggle with is the whole quantity versus quality thing. I've always leaned towards just making the best, most high quality thing possible, like compressing an entire 3 years into like a 10-minute segment. That's what I love the most, and that's why I make films. Mm-hmm. But then this podcast is like an exercise of the opposite, like just to let it go, like whatever it is, just let it go. And so for me, it's been really quite freeing to do these, because it's like, just let it go, you know, it doesn't matter, because ultimately it kind of doesn't. Like, everyone, it just comes and goes, it's forgotten. And as you described it before, it's a diary entry. It's just like a stamp in time.
Yeah.
And we're all going to be gone, you know. It's like we're all going to die soon. So, you know, don't take it so seriously. I think people completely overthink the putting themselves out there.
Yeah.
It's hard. You feel vulnerable. Like, you feel like people are judging you and everything like that. Have you ever, you said that your audience is great, and normally the mountain bike audience is really great, and majoritively, like, people think that like, you know, people on Pint Bike are super negative or whatever, but most of the time it's all positive, you know.
Yeah.
It's a very positive
Well,
community.
I'm not sure about pink bike, but
yeah, pink bike's the kind of like
I don't think
the
like
snake
pink
pit,
bike
but
users like me very much.
yeah.
I don't know.
Have you ever like struggled with like feedback like that? Have you ever overthought a comment?
Yeah, like when I was younger, I was talking about that cut media I did. It was like my first ever video, and I think I was 13, and it got put out on Pink Bike, and I was so excited. And obviously, as you do as a kid, I wanted to see the feedback. And there was one comment that said something like, I can't really remember now, but along the lines of, she's only riding bike park, she's so shit, she's not going to go anywhere. Just like along those lines. And obviously, as a 13-year-old kid that's just put my stuff out, I looked up to all these pros, that's what I wanted to do. It shattered me. And I remember my dad coming up and was like, what are you doing? And I was like, oh, there's this comment. And he said to me, he was like, never look at the comments. He was like, do they know you? No. Like, do they know the effort that's going in? No. And a few years ago, the video got reposted, I think, and I saw the comment again.
No way.
And I was kind of like, ha.
Yeah,
like, oh my God, like, since that comment, I've won 8 World Cups.
Yeah.
I'm
That's
like,
sick.
I've got so many podiums. Not that like it matters in the grand scheme of things, but in that small moment, it did matter to me. Like the little girl that was just shattered from that one comment, I cried over it for days, like, because I hadn't yet obviously developed an understanding of that side of things. But yeah, I remember thinking like, I was a bit smart. I was a bit like,
yeah. That's really cool.
Yeah, I try not to look at the stuff. I do get mean comments every now and then, but I think everyone does, and it's so easy to hide behind the screen and just say your opinion, you know. It's so easy, even if there's something good to be said, it's so easy to say that as well. Obviously, it's so good to spread positivity, but I find it just so odd that everyone's connected in this one small, I don't even know what it is. It's just nothingness. It's air. It's like thin air. And yeah, it's just so easy for people to say whatever they want with no consequences. They're not going to get punched in the face, are they, sat at home on their laptop or phone. So I try not to take it seriously, but when I am in like a sad mood or stuff, it gets me, as it gets to everyone. Yeah. Just avoidance is the way to go about it, I think, for me.
Yeah, for sure. The anonymity of it is really strange, because it's like, yeah, as you say, they would never ever say that to your face, and there they are mouthing off in the comments. And it's funny because like I don't know how it's happened, but like as you say, it's like the Pink Bike comment section is just absolutely ruthless. It's like I don't know. It's like some back end page of Reddit or something like that. It's like
or Reddit's an even different world.
Yeah,
it's crazy over there.
It's mad. And I think people that are struggling to express themselves need to completely let go of that. Like statues weren't made for the critics. They were made for the criticized, you know? And yeah, you walk down a town square, there's a statue of somebody and half of the people hated them, half of the people loved them, you know? That's just the way it is. If you're gonna make a certain name.
Yeah, you can't please everyone, can you? It's not possible. Like, if you were to say an opinion in a room in front of 20 people, not everyone would agree with you. So when I'm presenting my opinion to however many followers I've got on Instagram, like it would be naive to think that everyone's going to agree with me. Yeah.
And we're in a world where like it's either yes or no. It's like I agree or I disagree. And I think people struggle to sit in the gray area. Yeah. It's not conversations like that where there's a heavy opinion one way or the other. There's normally a massive gray area in between. Yeah. And people struggle to just sit in the gray area. I've been sort of exercising that recently, like not taking a hard opinion one way or the other, but just being happy to not have a conclusion. We don't need a conclusion on this, like the OnlyFans thing. It's we're happy just to be like, you can see it from both sides, and we can sit in the grey happily. I think the one thing I would say to people is just sit in the grey. It's fine. It's fine to be in the grey. It doesn't need to be black or white all the time. Yeah. A question that we ask all the time on the podcast is, what is your favorite mountain bike film of all time? What is something that's inspired you from within the sport?
I know that I used to watch all the Earthed growing up. I feel like that would be a common answer.
It is a very common answer, yeah. And Alex Rankin will be like, if Alex Rankin is watching these, he'll just be like, yes, every time.
But like, there's just not been anything, like we were saying, with all the being a consumer's world and stuff, and content being so easily accessed. It's just not the same anymore, and stuff's being dropped. You know, people don't sit down and watch a longer movie because they can sit down and watch 100 5-second like entertaining pieces. I just feel like there has been amazing films since then, don't get me wrong, but I just feel like there's nothing quite like having a DVD and watching it with your mates, you know? I used to get hyped on stuff like that. And then I can't remember if there's one piece that stands out to me was Ben Reed at Glencoe.
Oh my
but
God.
I can't remember what that was. It was that in Earthed, or
I think that was
maybe
just like a YouTube edit. Yeah.
Maybe.
Like, that was just, I think that was just like a video. I can't remember, but I know the exact segment that you're talking about.
It was crazy.
It's
like,
insane.
Because I've ridden that track once, one run, and abandoned it because, well, first of all, the weather was too bad, but it was actual hell riding down that track. I was like, this is crazy. So then I'd seen the video already, but I've watched it numerous times since then, just being mind blown. I can't believe how he rides it.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
For people that haven't seen that, just type Ben Reed Glencoe. Yeah. Hopefully it comes up. But
but it doesn't know justice either. And I feel like people have to go and ride it and then watch.
Yeah, that's just crazy. Just on the sort of long form thing, it's interesting now because like we made the pilot with Amory. Yeah. And it's just funny going around and, you know, some people have watched the whole thing and it's like, it's almost cool to me. Like, it's a success that they've even watched the whole thing. Yeah. Like, I appreciate that they even went to the end of the film, which is a madness. And a lot of people are like, oh yeah, well, I watched a bit of it.
Yeah. Well, see, I haven't had time to sit down.
That's it. It's an hour long.
And I'm like, really want to watch it. But obviously the last 2 World Cups have been here. It's been hectic. And I just haven't found, and when I want to watch it all, I don't just want to watch it in bits. Yeah. And I've spoke to Amory and he was like, yeah, you gotta get comfy. Yeah. And I've heard like, you know, Pom Pom got really emotional over it. And I was like, oh, I can't watch it at the World Cup then because I don't want my emotions to be all over the place. So yeah, I'm waiting for a good moment, but I've heard very good things about it. Yeah.
It's just one of those things when you go on your phone and you're just looking for some light entertainment, there's like a 10-minute YouTube video, you know, sat there about, you know, I don't know, something stupid, hats or whatever. It seems interesting. And you watch that because you just want to switch off. It's like you don't go on YouTube and then you're like, oh yeah, an hour and 20-minute long, intense, emotional roller coaster of a documentary. It's like you have to be really intentional with it. And it's hard to get people's attention now because they'll actually spend an hour and 20 minutes on Instagram.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Scrolling, and you're also messaging people and blah 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 blah, and it is an interesting one. But I'm really glad that there's still people like really appreciate that, you know. Yeah. Because I think it switches off that like sort of reward circuit for a second, and it just like it's a nice experience for an hour. So we're definitely going to keep the longer form alive, I think.
Yeah, please do. I love stuff like that. And it's like, you know, we're all looking forward for another Death Grip as well. And just, I think people within the industry as well appreciate stuff like that a lot because there's just so much, like we were saying, disposable content and you see it and then forget about it. And you really want something to make its mark and inspire people. So I think the longer films definitely have more an effect like that. Yeah,
it's also just giving the sport its justification to have something that long because it's so good and there's so many stories. It's almost like it's not had its time yet to really get those stories told in their full detail that they deserve. That's what I feel. I see like stories everywhere that deserve an hour-long documentary and it's just not possible to do it. But it's like the sport definitely deserves more content like that. And I find it bewildering. Like I remember saying to Glenn when we were in the middle of editing it, I was like, it's mad how if we didn't make this film, it wouldn't have been made. I don't know, that sounds like a mad thing to say, but it's like...
Yeah, that's like with everything, isn't it? When you think about it like that, it does, you're like, what the fuck? Like,
it's like, why was this not being made before? Like, this has to be made sort of thing. Yeah. Are you going to are you working on film projects at the moment? Are you looking to pour more effort into that, or are you just wholly focused on racing at the moment?
Yeah, I'm just focused on racing, to be honest. I did that Sound of Speed with Red Bull, which was sick. That was kind of a goal to reach. I wanted to showcase that I was back riding my bike and I was comfortable on the bike, like nothing crazy. And I'm really happy that they supported that. I feel like the finished product was super chill, but also like just like me riding at my best. I thought, it was a downhill World Cup track, and yeah, there was no holding back. So I really wanted, that was cool. And it was only a few days of filming. But yeah, we just never really have the time. And obviously we have the How We Roll series that's running in the background all the time. So there's going to be kind of a new format of that, I think, at the end of the year. So that's just like a fly on the wall thing, which pretty much picks up everything. So I feel like, I'd love to do more, but it just requires so much time and energy, and I run quite low on energy levels. But no, I think after the past 4 years I've had with injuries, I was just like, I want to take this year to focus on racing, and I feel like that stuff can kind of be put on standby for a bit. Yeah,
but it's also being, as you say, it's being done anyway. So like,
yeah,
no matter that, you can just focus on what you're doing, and you're in that great position where it's going to be made anyway. Like, there's something going to be. And
there's always content being captured. So like at the past 2 races, I was able to put out like so many reels, because we've got like our filmer Joe here with us, and he's amazing. He turns them around like that, and I never, we didn't have that before. And I think they're cool because you can just do like 5-second snippets, like put a trending song on, bam, out it goes, and that's it. But obviously there's a way bigger picture to why we're getting all this content. So yeah, it's fun.
No, it's cool to hear that you're still doing that, and there'll be something available at the end of the year, and I look forward to watching it. But yeah, that seems like a pretty good way to end it.
Yeah, nice.
Thanks for coming on.
No, thanks for having me.
Really good conversation. And yeah, all the best for the rest of the season.
Oh, thank you.
Bye. I never know how to end it. Like,
yeah. So, see ya.
See ya.